I broke my back.
What do you mean by that? You broke
back is broken.
What, a vertebrae or what portion?
Spinal.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Big shout out to everybody in Riverside. And as a kid, I always wanted to meet Don King. But now I think Don King's a fucking asshole. He's a racist.
No. We're not going down that road.
None bigger than this. Maybe the biggest upset of this decade.
Dile que Richie Steele es un fuck you, dile, porque él puede quedar bien con la pelea.
Welcome to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. It is me, Sal, Mr. Boxing Guru. Guys, welcome. Let's make it a habit. Look, it's only been 2 weeks since I did a podcast. I think this is a betterment of myself. Again, if you guys have not subscribed, make sure you guys subscribe on whatever platform you guys are listening to, whether it's YouTube, of course, preferably YouTube, and I'm going to send the link out to you guys right now. Spotify, Spreaker, Apple, iTunes, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, make sure you guys like, subscribe, share, and rate. I think rate is important because I think anybody's rating me over a year pinches will want it, so make sure you guys get to it. We had a great boxing weekend, boxing, from ESPN, boxing from DAZN, and boxing in general. So, I mean, it was a good weekend for boxing, and let's start talking about it. First of all, we were supposed to have Virgil Ortiz, not to be confused with Victor Ortiz, fight McKinson, I believe is the British guy's name. So, sometimes it could be a blessing in disguise. You guys saw McKinson fight this weekend. It's not much to show. I mean, you could kind of tell when you saw this kid, because you did see him as a co-main event now. You saw him, you saw what he had to offer on paper, of course. The undefeated record always looks great. Once you start digging into it, you see that he's only has 2 knockouts. And after those 2 knockouts, you also have to notice that, where the kid comes from. He's a UK fighter. And I admit it, I have the tendency to knock UK fighters, but I mean, they're for a good reason. What have you done for me? I mean, how could I say this without being mean? These UK fighters, I mean, they're very limited, especially when they get to build the record at home. Sort of like Berlanga, and we'll talk about him a little later. But after seeing what we saw that there was absolutely nothing that could have, bothered Virgil. I think if anything, once Virgil would have, tested him for maybe 1 or 2 rounds, I think he would have got rid of this kid maybe in 3 to 4 rounds. I just don't think much of McKinson, and I think the best thing was to just give a body to McKinson and let the co-main event be, which I'm so glad. You know what? I'm very happy when Golden Boy actually does the right thing. And I think not tweaking it around, because I had heard something about they wanted to use Blair COBBS to maybe fight McKinson. And I'm really glad that Golden Boy did a great service for their fighter, which was Alexis Rocha. Again, we'll talk about him in a bit. By not tampering with what they had, it was a great thing, because Rocha's a hometown kid. Again, he's from... He's in Santa Ana, or Santana, like they call it here. But he brought a crowd. He's maybe, about 30 minutes away from the Gambling Center. And if you guys have not been to the Gambling Center, you guys have to go. Great part of the USC campus. So amazing place to host a fight. But if they would have tampered with it, I mean, we wouldn't have gotten such a great main event, which... This is, and again, people accuse me of being a Golden Boy fanboy, but I think whenever they actually sit down and fucking work and do great and sit down and put pen and paper and actually start matchmaking kids, they have the ability to do great fucking fights with a very minimum budget. And something that other promoters can only dream of doing, with the exception, of course, Top Rank, because they've always been very frugal and able to do great things with a limited budget as well. But Golden Boy, in my opinion, it's kind of it's an old school promoter. They know how to do these type of fights, and them leaving Rocha versus COBBS was a great thing, because we got a great fight off of both guys. of course, from what we all know, we saw Blair COBBS get stopped in the ninth round after a valiant effort. Look, man, I have nothing bad to really say about Blair COBBS. A guy came to fight, he got in his bicycle, at some point in the fight. But for the most part, he tried fighting Rocha off. And this is how beautiful boxing is. There's guys that are fucking athletically gifted up the fucking ass. But if they don't have structure, there's not much they can do. I think Blair COBBS is a more athletically gifted guy than Rocha was. And maybe even a stronger guy than Rocha was. But Rocha kept, he's the type of fighter that, if he understands his position in boxing, he understands that if you put pressure on a pipe, the pipe's eventually going to bust. And this is exactly what happened with COBBS. COBBS, for the most part, he looked explosive. He looked strong. Again, it's conditioning. You can't knock COBBS for how well conditioned he was. And you can't knock COBBS for talking shit. That's what makes the kid great. We forget. Yeah, I get it when they say, he's a 30-something-year-old prospect. Sometimes we have to understand, especially as Mexican boxing fans, not everybody's as well promoted as they should be. Blair COBBS, I remember him a couple of years ago. He fought at it wasn't Velasco. It was one of those other small venues like Velasco, but and as a matter of fact, it was like in West Hollywood. And he was brought for this guy named Fernandez. As a matter of fact, Golden Boy fighter. He was brought in as an opponent to this guy Fernandez. And I remember that event. It was fucking wild because Fernandez, he was an Armenian kid. And of course, being out in LA, the bros are everywhere. The bros, come on, bros. All the fucking aluminum BMWs and Mercedes were all over the place. All the hairy bros were there. And get them cheap and buy them cheap, bro. So everything was there for this kid named Fernandez to win the fight. But this kid, Blair, I don't know who brought him in. Again, and he's not the traditional, young kid. He's just odd. This kid fucking with it looks like Sideshow Bob comes in and starts working him and ends up beating Fernandez and to a very hostile crowd. As a matter of fact, that day, Golden Boy had nothing but upsets. I remember Mercito Hesta fought and he got knocked out. It was just a fucking mess. As a matter of fact, they had this one fucking heavyweight that Golden Boy had. The motherfucker was like he walked around like if he was Mike Tyson, just yoked up dude. And I remember even that day, he fought this one Mexican kid that they brought in a 2-week notice, and again, I'm sure it was done on purpose, to make sure they brought him in. He got a body and they start building this guy up. As a matter of fact, this guy name is COBBS. So they bring this kid in. COBBS, Mexican fat kid, he looked like Barney from The Simpsons, same chubby dude, not a muscle to save his life. And he starts dancing circles around this kid. Again, another Golden Boy guy that they had just brought in. Upset. So again, this was a night of upsets after upset after upset. And this is where Blair COBBS, I can't even fucking say his name right. Blair COBBS kind of made a name for himself because the crowd was very hostile. Atmosphere was again, it wasn't as a matter of fact, I even almost got into a fight, man. Who the fuck do I know about fighting? But it was just a weird place to be. And he kind of calmed the crowd down. He said, shout out to Fernandez, and he was just hyping everything up. But again, this is where you saw this kid. That means he hasn't had it easy. He was brought in as an opponent. Again, most fighters at 10 fights are not being brought in. With 10-0 fighters, undefeated guys, they're not being... When you have that type of record, you're not just going out there and being an opponent. And this is a luxury that I think a lot of, especially when you're local area, like for example here in Southern California, a lot of these local Mexican fighters, if you're with the right management and you're able to sell tickets most of all, which is the most important thing, you have the luxury of very calculated matchmaking. I don't know Blair COBBS passed before that, but at 10 rounds, I mean, to be brought in as an opponent, I mean, at 10 fights, I'm sorry, to be brought in as an opponent is not necessarily great. I know he's had a late start to boxing. I know Golden Boy has been keeping him as active as possible, especially the last, 2-3 years when, there really hasn't been shit to do. But I think a guy like that is again, he has nothing to be ashamed of. Like I said, Rocha started putting pressure on him. Every time Rocha would let more than, one punch go, he was actually effective. It was a lot of the rounds where, yes, he might have been winning, but he wasn't as effective as he could be because he was kind of playing to COBBS' tricks. Eventually, like I said, I think he knocked him out, in the 5th or something, and again in the 7th, something like that. I don't really remember. I just remember the fight. That's the thing about me, guys. You guys know I don't give a fuck about stats. I don't give a fuck what round this guy got dropped, this guy. What I remember is who won. But eventually he got him out of there. Again, as athletic and as conditioned as Blair is, he seems a bit clumsy the way, especially when he's jumping around all over the ring. So it made him look a little goofy. He ended up falling. He lost his fight. And it's funny to me the way the internet acts sometimes when somebody loses, or especially a guy like COBBS. He made a couple of statements about Errol Spence not fighting. He has the same sentiments that everybody does, that he wants to see fights like, Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting fights, but because he made a statement, now he's a garbage fighter. No, he's not a garbage fighter. You need fighters like Blair COBBS. You need again, perfect records. Again, like I always say, you show me a perfect record, I show you a protected fighter. I mean, who cares? He's a fun fighter. Where am I wanting to watch Blair? Fuck yeah, I want to watch him again. Is there plenty of work to do with Golden Boy? Fuck yes, there's plenty of room to do. They have some welterweights there. They have like kids like Evan Sanchez, and I think what they'll eventually do is move them up in weight to 154, where there's a little more leniency and fighting maybe Golden Boy's bigger guys. As far as Rocha, man, Rocha fought a great fight. Again, there were some rounds where I think he kind of followed Blair around, but for the most part, I think he did great. He eventually, like I said, stopped Blair, put enough pressure on him where he was able to drop him. Now, what is next for a guy like Alexis Rocha? That's the question. Look, man, there's no lie. He's in the toughest division there is out there. But hey, fighters fight. They have to fight. The thing is, you have to match him. You have to match him right. Maybe against. Again, now it's time to. He's contender status. He's top 20 type of fighter now. He has to fight these type of guys. Of course, coming to mind, would be a great. One would be like with Omar Figueroa. Of course, PBC. So that the budget won't permit. Maybe a Kell Brook. Will be great as well. Again, I know Kell Brook does a ton of numbers, but now he's in the ballpark of fighting like the Connor Benz, which would make great sense since they're both the zone fighters. Imagine him and Amir Khan. I think it'll be great. Hell of a name under his record. So I think that's a fight that the zone maybe would want to push. I don't think Amir will want to fight anymore, but that's that. Because if you look at the top, I mean, we're talking about what guys like Crawford, Ugas, Keefe, and whatnot. So it's a little tough up there. And of course, Spence, which is the daddy of them all. But I don't know. Maybe even like the Mean Machine, like Kavalauskas, will be a great fight for Rocha. Again, you have to be very calculated on how you move Rocha. Again, you can't just throw him to the monsters. Yes, it was a great fight, but again, we got to also remember this was a great fight versus a 14-0 fighter. So it's not like Blair was this monster of a guy. Yes, he's a great fighter, but that doesn't mean because he fought a good little fighter means you throw him, with the wolves. So again, Kavalauskas, I would love that fight. I will maybe again. And they got to start mixing matching with these guys from Golden Boy because I know there's a couple of other welterweights. They don't come to mind. right now. But I mean, I think it'll be a great thing to do. Speaking of welterweights and Golden Boy, they have a good little welterweight. I saw Evan Sanchez. I think is managed by Joel De La Hoya. Good fighter. I think there needs to be some fine tuning because I like the whole specimen of the kid. He's a kid. He's about 6 foot tall, 147 to 154 fighter. Again, he seems still young. He's about 10 fights in, but he seems a bit unorthodox the way he fights. Like he's trying to do a shoulder roll, but not really. But he wants to brawl, and so it's a bit confusing to me. I think it's the new era of boxing. This is something that Floyd brought in. Of course, you know that if you're a bit more defensive minded, which is a great thing, you last a little longer. But sometimes you have to know your own abilities as an athlete to see what better fits you. To me, tall, long fighters better off working off the jab, setting things up. And I think if a kid like Evan Sanchez, which is again on the undercard, I think if you start just capitalizing on the jab, use what God gave you. There's kids out there that are nowhere near your height and wish they could pump a jab out there, and you have that ability, so why not use it? So I'm looking forward to Evan. Hopefully there's good things in the future for him. Again, maybe Roach in the future. Maybe why not Blair COBBS in the future? Again, I think it might be a little soon. I think they're developing him a little slower, which is, again, slow is always good as long as there's a purpose to it. And not like Berlanga, again, and we'll get to him in a bit. So, again, each fighter gets developed a little different. It's on you how well they progress, how well they ace that next step and whatnot. So we'll see what is out there for Evan. As far as the other card, which I asked Twitter, before, because I had to pause the fight because I was working in the house. We're working here in the house, and my wife, God bless her soul, I love you un chingo, vieja, but let me talk about you. She brought her dad with her, and all of a sudden they wanted to leave in the mid-fight. So I went from where I live back to my father-in-law lives, which is about 40 minutes to take him and then bring him back mid-fight. So I paused everything, of course. I was watching both cards. I had started watching both cards. So I paused everything, went back to Long Beach, came back. And when I was coming back, when we were dropping him off, I asked, who had the better card? The Mexicans in LA or the Puerto Ricans at the Garden? Of course, you get the super bias one way, super bias the other way. But I think the best thing that they told me was Golden Boy had the best main event. The Garden had the better undercard. So when I started looking through it, I started, kind of skimming through the fights. I saw that the card at the Garden, which was a very solid undercard. It was very fun, very technically, a lot of development fights, and I don't mind development fights as long as you told me they're development fights. Don't try to push them to me as anything other than that. It was a good card, but then again, you get to the main event, and you get this goofy dude, que vale Berlanga. He's just. I don't know, man. I don't know what Berlanga is. I don't know. I guess people talk about his popularity. Again, I don't know. Maybe, again, I'm kind of a little... I try not to follow boxers as much outside of the ring anymore because you end up hating fighters, sort of like I do with Ryan Garcia, because you see, I think they're kind of force-fed, into your fucking timeline, that by the time that they actually fucking fight, they don't fight. You're kind of disappointed in them, and you kind of tell them to, los mandas chingar a su madre. And that's why, again, I try not to follow boxing fans as much as, boxers or actual athletes as much as I like boxing fans. I like following boxing fans because they just, they have no filter. They shouldn't have a filter. They don't pull punches. They just talk shit. But anyways, so I guess Berlanga's this kid that I've been watching I watched probably most of his fights, and he looked good, because he's a big stud kid. Comes in with a lot of, pretty much he's undefeated guy, but he's also knocked everybody out. So Top Rank sometimes Top Rank knows what the fuck they're doing, first of all. Sometimes they want to build an attraction, and sometimes they want to develop a fighter. I'll give you an example. When Juanma Lopez was coming up, same fucking story. Knockout, first round knockout, first round knockout, first round knockout. Yo vine a ganar, nadie quiere pelear conmigo, nadie quiere pelear conmigo, nadie aguanta mi golpe. All that, undefined R's that they throw out there, those Puerto Rican dudes. So it was fight after fight after fight. And he was knocking everybody out. As a matter of fact, he even knocked fucking Ponce Leon, and Ponce Leon was a solid dude. So, again, there's no developing but their immediate sparring partners that are working with them day in, day out. So there's never any real-time controversy that they deal with. That the time that they actually deal with an actual fighter, they hurt. They hurt because they don't know how to deal with adversity. And that's exactly what happened to, what in my opinion was happening to Berlanga. He knocked everybody out the day he didn't. People started calling him out. Or people calling him a fraud. And the fact of the matter is that he's a young kid. He needs to fucking develop. And in my opinion, in this instance, it's Top Rank's fault because they're putting fighters that at a very young age, they never really put a fighter that'll push him back or at least give him rounds. So now this kid is so in love with his power that his brain is automatically thinking, I need to knock this guy out. That's not the way shit works. That's not the way a mind of a fighter gets developed. You need to, again, not only develop them physically, develop an attraction, but understand what you have in front of you, that you don't want them to deal with adversity at a later time when it's almost fucking too late. Like, for example, right now he fought, Steve Rose? I think that's his name, Steve Rose? Yeah, which is a guy that Golovkin starts in 4 rounds? Again, but that's what, I don't mean to compare, but you chose this opponent because you want to compare. You thought you were going to grab this guy that's 160 pounder or less, and bring him up to 168 pounds, 2 years removed or 3 years removed of fighting Golovkin, so you think he's a little more washed, and you think your guy's going to be able to knock him out, but the fact of the matter is that he didn't. We kind of shit on Golovkin for his lack or his choice of fighters, but the fact of the matter is Golovkin's a good fucking fighter, and now your guy is made look like shit because you chose to use him as a measuring stick, and now that shit backfired. Now everybody's talking shit. I get why people are talking shit. You guys made people talk shit. Now, by you guys, I'm talking about Top Rank. Again, Top Rank's a great company. I really like them. I really like the way they fucking develop, but I think they're doing this kid a disservice. And again, that's where you get all the shit talkers. But hopefully there's better things for him. I would love again, this is what I hear on fucking Twitter. They say this guy is very popular with the fucking stars and rappers and whatnot. Somebody new always walks him in. Again, I don't fucking know. I don't know any of this new rap bullshit. But that's what I'm hearing. So maybe getting him away from social media, sort of like, Ryan wants to do now with Gene Loving Goosen, and maybe focusing on himself. Again, who knows? I don't know. Maybe that is a ceiling. I think we just need to see him develop. Again, Top Rank has done no fucking favors, but, get him a lot of money in his pocket. All right, so let's move forward. That was it for the weekend's fight. Let's move on. What news out there? Oh, I did see Golovkin is suing Golden Boy. According to some news or notes that I read, something about Golovkin is owed money from the Golden Boy fight. I guess they wanted to pay him in installments, like if he was fucking getting something from a firm. But yeah, they owe money and he wants his money now, and hey, he deserves it. Hey, if Golden Boy owes him money, good for him. Maybe that's why fucking Golovkin hasn't fought in so long, because he says, fuck it, I ain't got no trading camp money. I ain't fucking fighting. But other than that, let's see what we get. We got a very busy weekend, a lot of smaller fights going on, but let's start with the first one on March 26th. That is this Saturday? From Las Vegas on ESPN, Miguel Berchel versus Jeremiah Nakatila. 10-round lightweight. Look, this is a Berchelt. I don't know. What do they owe Berchelt the fight? It seems like a fight that's flying under the radar. I haven't heard much from it. But, look, Berchelt, as long as you wear your Adidas gloves, bro, we good. I really like Berchelt. I hope he moves around. I hope he makes a statement. You know, he needs some highlight reels. I know his last time he fought Oscar Valdez. He didn't look that great. Oscar Valdez has fought a couple of times. He didn't look that great after. But now, again, he doesn't have that pressure of that, being there or him, you know, protecting that, Berchelt, do what you do. Hopefully the new trainer works. I'm not a fan of Capetilla as a trainer. I think he's one of those trainers that just likes to throw their fucking mitts in the air and make little highlight reels, and it's just not my type of shit. But good for him. Hope to see good things from Berchelt, and keep on trucking. Again, on the same date, on March 26th from England on DAZN, Kiko Martinez fights Josh Warrington in the 12th round for Martinez's IBF featherweight title. Hopefully, look, this should be a good fight. I'm gonna go with Josh Warrington again. Seems like the logical choice to pick. Who's going to win? I don't know, but let's watch it. March 26th, again, from Minnesota on Showtime. We got Tim Tszyu fighting Terrell Gausha. Terrell Gausha is a good fighter. I think he's still fighting out of the Manny Robles camp. Again, I'm assuming he is a Cincinnati kid. A very complacent fighter. Tim Tszyu, of course, is the son of the legend. Hopefully, we get to see some good movement from him. I don't know about this move, especially him going to PBC, because remember, once you go to PBC, you know, your fucking career pretty much fight once a fucking year, twice if you lick Al Heyman's balls. Let's see, undercard again, a bunch of Elvis Rodriguez, which used to be formerly known as a ESPN guy, but he got his ass, he didn't even get his ass whooped. Did he? I think he did lose. But he had such another one of those fighters that had this long ass knockout streak. But again, when they fight somebody, they fucking fumble. And one that fucking tripped me out, and I'm not even sure if it's gonna air on anywhere in particular. But I saw on March 26th from Dubai. I saw first they said, okay, Michael Paris, whatever. Brian Augustin. But then I saw Marcos Maidana versus Yao Cabrera in the 6-round middleweight fight. That means Marcos Maidana is coming back, so we get to see el argentino boludo, el que le ganó a Brunner. So we get to see Marcos Maidana again. I don't know if this is part of that problemum fights that people have been pushing. I know part of this problemum, on one of these problemum cards that happened, there was another problemum. Fucking Rick Glazer was over there fucking dying, probably hyperventilating because he had to pay for dinner for his wife, that old nasty bastard. But yeah, back to Maidana. I don't know. I don't know. Is this one of those circus fights where they pick a YouTuber or whatnot? I don't know. You guys tell me, who the hell is Yao Cabrera? I think I saw him doing a face-off with like a YouTuber, so never know. It was under the radar. I had no idea Marcos Maidana was fighting, or I have no idea if it even is the right Marcos Maidana. Guys, this is it. I'm done. Thank you guys for listening. Remember, subscribe. Make sure you guys rate, leave a comment. Thank you guys so much. It's always fun. Again, 30 minutes of fun is more than enough for you and me. Giggity, giggity. All right. Again, thank you guys for listening to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you. Hasta luego. Adios.